Alright, so now that this guy's up and running, obviously you guys should be able to see me in there, right?
Yep.
I'm orange, red, and yellow.
Yep.
So everything around me is blue and black. Blue and black are our cold spots. Obviously those are going to be colder than my skin. Now with a smaller group, it is going to be difficult to try to keep somebody's skin temperature in there, but we usually try to keep somebody in there because that gives the base. If I leave the picture, that orange, red, and yellow is going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So we want to try to keep somebody in there. It's going to be difficult tonight, but that's okay. The cool thing is that the new upgraded camera actually gives us the pinpoint of the hottest and coldest spot in the frame at that particular time, and it will move constantly. So the only thing you need to worry about is this little red square right here. That means that it's recording, and it will record audio, so it's kind of like a secondary audio for you. And normally when I have my groups of 10, we spread out a little bit. With us just being 3 intimate, we're going to stay pretty close together all night. But with that said, you're still going to have 2 points of audio just in case one picks up one thing and the other one didn't. Therefore, we have verification, and we'll kind of go through that. But you're going to hold this horizontal just like this all night so you can actually watch it. And then if this thing, we're going to actually stop this about halfway through and kind of splice the video because we're going to be walking for a short spell and nobody likes to just watch people walking. So we'll kind of take a break with this and I'll splice the video together for you so you have one video to watch. But yeah, that one goes to you.
Cool.
No problem. Again, no button pushing, no extra function needed other than watching.
Okay.
The spirit boxes, obviously you guys are familiar with these. So I go through a little bit of a different method than what you see on TV. This is going to go through the radio stations very quickly to give you that white noise, and then Zach Bagans tells you the bullshit he thinks he heard. Yeah. So we're going to be doing this in real time, and to capture disembodied voices, the things that they claim to catch on television are a rarity. I usually only find about 1 every quarter, and even then it's questionable. So I still have analyzation to go through and different software to put it through to see if it's actually legitimate or not.
Yeah.
So with this one, I actually have it slowed down. So I want the radio chatter to come through. I want little bits of voices from song lyrics and DJs and commercials to come through. In the event you actually hear something, or we hear it as a group, obviously verification. The cool thing is, this one records. No background noise, it's not going to know what we're saying, and it will also record even when it's on mute. So if I say, Lynn, go ahead and turn it down, it's still recording at a nice even volume for us for tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I will go through this pretty thoroughly in the morning, but I'm going to spot check it. I'll give you like 15 to 20 markers of even of things that are not relevant, just because I'm training your ear on how to listen to something like this. In the event that it is relevant to the location, a person in history, or something going on with one of us, then I would definitely tell you why with an explanation, but also give you the backlink of where I got my information from. So it's not because I told you so, it's because Botanica.org told me so.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
To me, it's always about truth. I'm not going to make stuff up.
Okay, awesome. It's best policy.
Yep.
Fair, honesty.
Yeah, and if I didn't do that, the reviews you guys read would be horrible.
Right.
It would be absolutely horrible. So it's already recording. You only have one button to worry about on this guy. It's a wheel at the top, so you're going to control the volume. Okay. So go ahead and feel for that wheel, because there is a button up there too. You don't want to hit the button. It'll stop the recording.
Okay, so the numbers move when you...
No, the numbers are the radio stations that are sweeping through automatically.
Okay, cool.
So again, the wheel, you're not going to see any indication on the screen for that.
Okay. Yep, right up here.
You got it.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
So, just because you're holding very expensive equipment, she's going to be double-fisted. So, this one is an actual app. If you're any kind of enthusiast, you probably already know what this one is. But it is going to give us a word from time to time in the center of the screen. It will save all of those words to a list.
Okay.
Last night they had 68 terms. That's about average of what I see in a 90-minute to 2-hour tour. I'm going to clear them because they already have theirs and start us off fresh. The word ready will not be part of our list. 80% of what comes off this thing is absolute bullshit. Sorry for the language, but there's no other way to explain it. This thing is actually meant to be a game.
Okay.
So the game we're playing, is the word coming from the ghost, or is it coming from the app? Now, I do have the upgraded version of this. It does have 9,112 terms and phrases in there. So again, it's about, look at that, it's a student. There's still words in here that pop up that I've never seen before. So again, I've been using this one for over 5 years, 2 years on the tour, and that's pretty much every night. I'm out here 6 nights a week. So again, you're going to get both of those. Okay. You don't have to do anything with that. I'll check the list for you to kind of like, because I know you got 2 hands moving. Okay. So I'll kind of check the list from time to time to see where we're at and stuff.
Awesome.
So kind of recap on what you guys are going to get back. Obviously the audio recording, full video here, full spirit box recording, and the full list with a quick analysis of what we're going to find. The one thing that I'm going to be throwing in my pocket just for because it is still relatively new. We've had this one less than 3 months. Mel meters, have you guys seen these before?
Yeah.
So this one also has the REM pod built into it. So once it starts up, obviously anything on the, I have this measured in milligauss, not Tesla. So with that said, anything above 2.5, I'm still going to try to debunk what's going on first.
Okay.
And then of course the ambient temperature. So in case you find anything that's a little wonky, we're going to be able to measure that pretty quickly and prove it or debunk it with the yellow probe. And then of course you guys know how REM pod works. Anything gets close to the antenna, it's going to go off.
Yep.
I don't think I pressed it in on the way, which I did not. So over here, obviously anything gets close, we're going to know what's going on.
Right.
So this one will kind of stay in my side pocket. I'll pull it out from time to time just to kind of test things out after I'm done telling stories, because it does get annoying and very distracting when I'm trying to give you the history.
Right.
So again, this one doesn't record, but I will be recording manual data from time to time.
Okay.
So again, we hear something specific on there, I may not catch it in my spot check tomorrow.
Date.
Interesting. So hopefully it gives us, it's giving us something else?
Desolate.
Desolate.
Wow.
I don't think today's date is anything out of my stories tonight, especially in this area. So, I mean, I'll deep dive just to double check, but I'm pretty sure, like, the first 2 locations, like, nothing is very specific to today's date. But yeah, the EMF meters that they use on TV, the really sensitive K2 meters,
Okay.
I do have one of those too, but this one is way more accurate. Not to mention, it's much easier to debunk. So when I can see numbers that are going 2.5 to 5, 2.5 to 5, it's usually something man-made. So, questions, comments, concerns now that you have crazy gear in your hands?
Similar. No.
Oh, very interesting.
Okay.
So,
Very.
let's talk about the building that I had you guys start from. And by the way, I seen you vaping on the way here.
Yes.
I'm a heavy vapor. By all means, smoke away.
Okay,
You got to
awesome.
throw a device in your pocket or whatever you got to do.
Okay. Thank you. I
Again,
appreciate that.
I vape. I'm a writer by day. So
Okay. So, yep, you're hitting on that thing all day tough.
all day long. So this is the 1-2 hour time of my day where I'm like, I have a cigarette before I leave
Right.
the car. Like
Ties you over.
Yeah, ties me over for the 2 hours. But I seen you vaping. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be kind of a cool night.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Awesome sauce.
Awesome to know.
yeah, this is your tour. So I mean, if you guys have a million questions to ask me, ask a million questions.
Okay.
Awesome. So again, you seem like you're pretty in tune with things
Yes.
already. So again, if there's stuff that you have questions about, other locations that I may have worked on, things you see on TV, like I'm happy to prove or debunk any of that stuff for you, because you can usually tell just by watching the shows. Yes,
Right.
I watch quite a bit because I'm looking at methods, like how are
Right.
people doing things. And I'll be honest, technically, like ghost hunting is not a scary thing.
No.
It's more scientific than it is anything else, which is why I use, gadgets. I use
Right.
electronics. So dowsing rods are out the door for groups when I'm trying to prove the paranormal. Ouija boards and tarot cards and all that stuff. Do I use all of that? I do, but at the same time, I don't bring that because there's no proof
Right.
for my guests that come through.
Right.
Not to mention, I do promote this as a family-friendly tour, so there's
Right.
no crazy gore and all that other mess that comes into play with Zach Bagans.
Right.
So, this building over here, which is the address I actually gave you to meet me up at, and I kind of spotted you looking for that corner. This is 251 East Bay. It used to be called Big John's. It looks like they're going to rename it Big John's. Big John was a football player for the 1947 New York Giants. Now, I'm not a football fan. I had to memorize this crap so I could tell people. So that's the funny thing. But this was his bar. He owned it, and it was named after him. So he used to sit in the back of the bar, and he would tell the bartender if the cadets that were coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to drink or not. These were cadets, right? So they could have been very well underage to drink. One night, 2 guys come in. John recognizes them. They're not old enough to drink. He has the bartender throw them out. They leave pretty pissed off. They come back the next night, and they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on. He starts pounding these guys into the pavement, right? He's just beating the hell out of them. Next thing you know, a few gunshots go off. John gets hit in the neck, but the bullet lands in the wall. So John gets up, and he goes back to the bar, and he tells the bartender to get him another beer and to get the guys on the floor an ambulance. Keep in mind, John's the one that got shot. So, funny thing about the whole story is nobody died in that story. The interesting thing is that the bullet hole is allegedly still here. I say allegedly because they are renovating the place. I'll have to verify it once they reopen again and see if they maybe filled it in.
Right.
However, people that sit in the front of the bar where all of the action happened,
Impact.
kind of vague.
Yeah.
I'm looking for detail. But people that sit in the front of the bar, headache, nauseous, like those kind of things, weariness, that's all effects of the paranormal, which we are about to deal with. If either one of you are feeling any of those symptoms, even the slightest bit, I kind of need to know.
We felt
We've
this
been
before we
feeling it.
met with you.
Yeah.
As
We've
soon
been
as we
feeling
got
it.
in the area.
Yep.
Well,
We're both kind of sensitive, like empath people.
okay, that's fair. That's
Not
good
gonna
to
lie
know.
to you. Yeah.
No, and that's good to know because
I
a lot
can
of people
feel it.
won't confess up
Just-
until.
Right now, standing here the whole time.
Well, I'm definitely going to be listening at the very beginning of the recording on this end then, just to kind of see what else is coming up that might match up with your word list. So, but again, I won't say that psychics they don't make it. I'll just put it that way. So
Right.
usually by maybe halfway through, they're just done. Maybe they're passed out or their head is pounding them so bad.
Near you.
That's a common term on there. So again,
Cool.
keep in mind that the app is meant to scare you.
Right.
So I'm looking usually for names, specific dates, something
Right.
specific to a
Something
specific
that's
person.
not going to be.
Yeah, nothing that's going to be a, God isn't real kind of mentality.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I gotcha.
that's, and I'll tell you a lot of times, like that's part of the 80%. I see it pretty much nightly. So I'm being so familiar with the app.
Right.
I'm pretty apt to, and something might be like impact might come up, but it might be part of another word that I'm going to miss on there. And even though we said impact, on these two guys, it might mean something. I just missed what the message was. I'm looking for very concrete evidence.
Cool.
Big earthquake here in 1886 in Charleston. It's a big one for us because we don't get earthquakes. We're on the East Coast. We just don't get them.
Right.
So I'm going to mention that earthquake several times throughout the night. So that's a big piece of our history. But this is allegedly where the first death occurred from that earthquake. The mantle you see in the middle of the building also goes around to the front. A piece of it from the front broke off and struck somebody in the head, killed him, and apparently you could see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street in the middle of the night. Notice I said apparently and allegedly a lot with that. It's only because I don't have any proof. It's just a great segue so you guys aren't thinking about getting sick on this tour. So again, it just kind of gets your mind off of, oh my God, I can actually get headaches, but you guys are already kind of feeling that queasiness already.
Right.
So in the event that it gets worse or so painful we need to stop, we will stop and get you a water, do whatever we have to do to remedy the situation.
Okay.
So, hasn't happened in about a year, so fingers crossed, we're good.
Okay.
But yeah, let's head this way. Let's go learn more
All right.
about your devices.
Cool beans.
How long you guys been married?
About 4 months and now 5 days.
Wow.
So fresh.
Is this honeymoon or is this just vacation?
Just vacation.
Congratulations. Thank you. I am coming up on my second marriage, 5 years.
Okay. There you go. 5 years is a hot minute.
Yeah, the last one lasted 13.
You done after that?
I definitely made the right call.
Yeah.
So my wife and I are both disabled. And we have come out of a very ugly divorce with my aunt. And it's been a nightmare still. So I have kids. She does not, based on her disability. And it's just a matter of like we rely on each other.
Right.
And we have never had an argument. And we have never even thought about having an argument. Because if something is bothering one other person, it's a matter of like, let's have a chat.
Yeah. That's good though. That's the way it should be.
Let's sit down. Like, I hate you screaming at people when you drive. Okay. She's like, I know it upsets you, but I also know that it can upset your seizures.
Right.
She's like, I really think we need to work on that. And that's kind of like okay.
Right.
Let's chat.
Cool.
You know what I mean? And
That's
it's
the way
just
it
an
should be.
understanding. So, if any marital advice, I don't know if this is your first marriage,
This
whatever,
is
but
first marriage.
awesome. For both of you?
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. So, congrats. Again, that's
Thank
huge.
you.
Appreciate
I wish you the best. Unfortunately, I know the odds. So,
Yeah, well, we've been through a lot, so I think as long as we keep talking, we're gonna be okay.
sure.
It's just getting through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, how long have you been together?
Well, what, three
3.5
and a half years?
Okay. And that's an excellent start.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I got married to my second wife 2 days after my divorce.
Oh wow.
Courts down here pretty much forced us to.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way, like, everything down here is, like, really, really old school. Like, I swear we're dealing with laws from the late 1800s.
Wow.
Like, that's how things go down here.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, she wasn't allowed to be around my kids. She never even met my kids. Like, it was crazy.
Oh wow.
It took a long time before the courts were like,
That's nuts.
she can meet your kids if...
If
Yep.
you guys get married.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy.
Pretty much the way it went down.
What?
And I was in front of 4 different judges trying to get that rectified. Yeah.
Oh, I can only imagine how that would have felt. You guys probably were like having a panic attack that day.
Well, every
You were probably
weekend
so
I-
stressed.
Well, every weekend I had my daughter, I had have to send my wife away. So she's staying at hotels, you know, the whole
That's
9 yards, and she's
ridiculous.
disabled, you know, so she's like packing up half the house because she's got handles all over and that
Right.
kind of thing.
That's
so
crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. So
Wow.
enough about my personal life.
Wow.
I still wish you two the best.
Thank you.
So, anyway, let's talk about where we are. So we're not always going to go to, like I said, this building used to be this. It's not always going to be a beautiful site. Again, these are the tours. They're not going to come to places we're going to go to. We are going to do some sightseeing at the end. But this first half, it's about the weird spaces because it's very historical.
I like that.
But this particular building, this is where we keep the horses for your carriage rides. So you guys can probably smell ponies.
Yes.
Yeah,
Big
I can.
time. You got used to it.
Yeah, real fast. 6 nights a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even in the summertime, as pungent as it is to you guys right now, I got nothing.
Right.
But they are inside there. They can hear us. So we definitely want to keep your noisy spirit box just kind of a minimum to us 3. We don't want to spook the horses.
Okay.
But the only history here is really simple. This is normally when I have my whole group of 10, like kind of spread out, so that way I can work with them one-on-one and show them more tactics. It's going to be a lot easier with the 3 of us just because it's the 3 of us. I don't have to spread out, so we're not going to spend a lot of time here. But the history here of this building is where we kept horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. So it's been here since like 1860s to 1920s roughly is when that time period was.
Mm-hmm.
So the interaction I usually get people started with on spirit boxes is this is not TV, this is not is somebody here, because if somebody says no through the red spirit box, then obviously somebody's here, right? So we're going to stay away from yes or no questions all night.
Okay.
That's just, we don't want vague answers, we want the details like I mentioned over there. So speaking of over there, I always give keywords whenever I'm giving you the history of a building. The writer always knows what keywords to spit out and say a little bit slower. Probably didn't catch on to it, you go from here moving forward. Over there it was Big John, anything dealing with a bar, because it was a tavern. 1947 and New York Giants, because that's the team he played for. So if I hear any of those things relatable, and anything related to Big John himself. Now over here, sometimes I'll even get jersey numbers.
Okay.
So it just depends. But you're going to start off with questions very simple, like if somebody's here, tell me what color the big red barn is.
Okay.
Obviously it's a George Washington's white horse kind of mentality, but again, it works here because you need to get used to what that thing sounds like.
Okay.
Now, in the event you don't get the word red, or we don't see the color red over here, they could give you a word that is specifically red. So, like fire truck, blood, heart. What color is the barn? Fire truck. Fire trucks are known to be red, right? It's very rare to see anything different than red. So those are, you got to put these clues together. That's what this is. It's all about the extra clues. Now, the word impact, like what we talked about before, could be a clue.
Right. You just don't ever know.
I don't know.
Right.
But over here, we can, let's go back to the questioning. So let's say we don't get an answer after a couple of tries. We're just really just going to walk to the edge of this. If we don't get answers, we're going to go learn some real history.
Okay.
But let's say we don't get any answers and we have another minute or two. What's inside the barn? Then we have horses, animals, draft horses, that's their breed. Delivery, milk, and eggs are the key words. So anything dealing with delivery, milk and eggs could also be protein and calcium. So I've seen that here a few dozen times. Keep in mind, again, we're still close to Big John's Tavern. I mentioned jersey numbers, but I don't get excited about one clue. If the number 40 shows up here and you hear something about art, what's the word you got there? Pinky?
Pinky.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, number 40, art comes out of the other one. Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. That's where the two clues come together, solidifies and verifies each other. But again, impact, I need something else. If it says brawl, impact, or impact cadet, impact military. I mean, we did have student, and that is a school.
Right.
So it's relatable. I need something a little bit more, I mean, there's a lot of different types of students, right? So we want something a little bit more, and there's a yes, of course. But again, we're just going to kind of pass through here. You're going to turn that up so you can hear it. Actually, so the two of you can hear it. I already know how to listen to this thing, and then we're going to actually kind of learn some real history based on the Pinkin family and kind of dive into that. So let's kind of walk through slowly and kind of see what let's get into yours for a second. So with yours, I usually give the example of, but we got the tree in the way. You definitely want to try to keep somebody's skin in the way. So bring your camera up here just to this metal wall for me, and just kind of point it right at the wall and watch it bleed out.
Right.
So my hand gets in the way, the wall should have changed to blue.
Yes.
So again, that's why we want to try to keep that array of color in there.
Right.
The more colors you have, the better off it is to see something that's not supposed to be there.
Right.
So again, that's kind of going to be your mentality throughout this entire time we're going to have together.
Okay.
So let's walk slow. Let's see what we can capture. I'm actually going to turn on, I'm going to see what so I got a 0.6 right now. I'm going to turn off the temperature just so all the battery juice goes into this guy. So recommend using this guy when we walk and we turn the REM pod on. It actually makes it go off. So again, when I'm moving, you'll see me turn it off just because I don't want any false positives. So these are normally set up to be kind of set up in a room, on a table, a staircase, whatever, and a camera's on it trying to watch. So yeah, you can turn it up just probably a hair more so you can actually hear it. Perfect.
Right there?
Yeah. I'm only getting short little spikes out of this. I'm not getting much at all. We'll go up to like 1 point something and then dip back down again. And again, this is a sewer line. There should be no reason why this thing should be going off at all because I'm not close enough to the buildings. Again, it's just giving me little tiny spikes. Any other crazy words come up out of there? Tap.
Tap.
Could
Coffin.
be yeah, coffin.
Crime.
Tap could actually be one of the taps in the bar. The crime could be that they tried to steal the damn cash register.
Right.
Again, I'm stretching things.
And I'm assuming Pinky might be somebody associated. Who knows?
Again,
Right.
Well, what's right? Is it a beer tap?
I don't know. I just said
Well,
what I
I'm
said.
asking them. Like, I want them to tell me.
Right.
Oh, 3.2. That's good. So, just so you guys can see how fast that guy's moving. It's at an angle, so I can't fully see the numbers. That was a 4 point something?
Yep. 4.4.
5? 8? So what was right? Was it a beer tap that you were talking about, or was the crime stealing the cash register? Right now. I heard retired. So because that slowed down, it's going to pick up words before and after things that are in the message. So what color is the big red barn? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. I don't need Rudolph the nosed reindeer. I just need red. So again, it's going to pick up things before and after. That was a little nuts. It was going all the way up to 8. Can't be coming from my vape. Big John, tell us more about the bar. What was hanging from the ceiling? Above it, they used to hang bras from the ceiling in the bar.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So can you tell us more about what was above in the ceiling, like what was hanging down? Come on, John. Well, I'm going to spend another minute here. right, John, we're going to move on. By the way, I just wanted to point out that tomorrow's Friday the 13th, too. I don't know if you guys
I noticed.
We
Yep.
just realized that yesterday.
So again, that above it seemed like a direct
Right.
answer.
Exactly.
Okay, but it's one of those in the moment terms where, you know, it feels like it's a direct answer. So how long are you guys staying in town?
Till Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. We're pretty pumped too. There's a lot of stuff to do down here actually.
When did you get here?
Monday, late afternoon.
Yeah, staying a long time.
Might as well. You drive 12 hours.
Yeah, that's what. Because when I go to Pittsburgh, it's the same way.
Right.
I'm there for my in-laws, and you know, and we stay a whole week. So
Might as well.
7 to 9 days.
That's a hell of a drive.
Yeah, it's never fun. All right, so let's turn the red spirit box down. Let me give you the history of this particular place, so that way we know what we're working with here.
Okay.
So this is the Pinckney Mansion site. So we actually met on Pinckney Street.
Mhm.
So Pinckney's are a pretty prominent name. I'm sure you've already seen a couple of things with their name in it. But this was Charles and Eliza's mansion. So who the heck were they? They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. The son and the nephew were signers of our Constitution for South Carolina. But you guys are on vacation, and I don't want to talk about politics either. So we're going to talk about Eliza. She's the one who usually brings me all the answers. So Eliza married Charles at a young age. By the way, I'm not going to be giving you the answers like what we did with the red barn over there.
Mhm.
It's going to be coming from your spirit boxes. So the age that she got married is going to come from a spirit box, fingers crossed. But I will tell you that Charles was over double her age. So there was a big age gap between the two of them. Now, with that said, she married Charles because her father over in England thought he was dying. And he wanted to see all his kids one last time. She didn't think he was dying, so she got married instead and said, Dad, I'm going to stay put. Now, it's the middle of the 1700s. There's no such thing as citizenship. She wasn't marrying for a green card or, you know, an arranged marriage. This was actually out of love. A lot of people like to ask that. But he didn't die, so she was right. Then he starts sending over gifts and presents from England. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. So you guys have been driving around for a couple of days. You've probably seen indigo, just like the name Pinckney. This is the only entrance in Pinckney. So you guys have seen that word, I'm sure. You just didn't realize what the connection was. But
Right.
he sent her indigo. It's a plant that makes blue dye, that makes her blue jeans blue. None of us are wearing it right now, but that's what it does. That's how we still use it today. But she started experimenting with it right here in the back courtyard. This is where her garden was, basically lined up with where we are. But she had to learn from her slaves how to keep it cultivated in our weird temperatures. It does get cold down here. So, I mean, I don't know what it was like in the 1740s, but it gets cold here in January, February, and plants will die. So once she learned from them, because they're straight from Africa, which means they're agriculturists, they know what they're doing. That's why they were brought over here to work. So once she picked it up here, she moved it over to a plantation in Mount Pleasant, just north of here. So she calls Dad and says, hey, I got this plant. It's going to really work out and make a lot of money for us. Can you give me some contacts to sell it to? She starts selling this stuff overseas. Now we're talking about a businesswoman in the middle of colonial times, which is absolutely unheard of. It's a huge deal for us. You know, I mean, Eliza really came into play when the rice plantation started going downhill. She swooped in with the indigo, and because it was so expensive, she was able to save the colonies pretty quickly. So there's the history of Eliza, but there are a lot of weird facts that we can ask about or just listen for.
Okay.
So obviously the ages I told you about with the marriage, but Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles back to back. Again, we talked about odds before. But their maiden names is what they go by. Eliza blank Pinckney. Both Eliza's maiden names start with the letter L. So again, hopefully one of those two names comes through so we know who the heck we're talking to. Again, there's a lot of these stories tonight. You're going to find there's multiple people with the same name. So far we have 3 Charleses, the husband, the father, and the nephew, and 2 Elizas, the first and the second wife. You can obviously ask what happened to the mansion. It's obviously not here anymore. So again, when that tragedy happened is another question you can ask. I will give you that it was a tragedy. The kids, tread lightly. Maybe ask how many kids there are, how many boys, how many girls, get some names, leave it alone. One of those kids had a tragedy. She doesn't like to talk about it all the time. So if you poke the bear, all activity will stop in the event we're actually getting any. So kind of keep in mind with that. As far as Eliza's death, ask anything you want to. Eliza, how old were you when you died? What did you die from? Where are you buried? And what U.S. president was a pallbearer at your funeral? Like, that's a pretty big question.
Okay.
So at this point, we're going to stay within the confines of the lot. We're going to spend a good 10 minutes here. I'm actually going to set the two of you free while I check you guys in on the app where you guys bought your tickets from real quick.
Awesome.
And then I'll catch up with you after I get the mail meter started. But yeah, get some filming. Keep in mind, people don't like their cars being filmed. If somebody's going to their car, you're just holding a cell phone.
Right.
So have some fun. Give me a few minutes and I'll be right with you.
You're good.
There we go. Alright, so this is Lodge Alley. And when we crossed the last crosswalk, that was where the Charlestown Wall used to be. So Charlestown used to be a walled city, pretty small. This is one of the first streets we ever had. So did we get any names that came up?
I got Lydia.
It's possible.
Ben popped up for a
Did it?
while. Yeah.
So I get excited about Ben because I get Ben a lot. So this is where people used to live. This is one of the first streets we ever had. So these two buildings weren't here. This is where, and I'm very excited about Ben because he shows up about once a quarter.
Okay.
But I think that's the second time in like 2 weeks. So I normally get Ben, Benjamin, and John. There were 4 different Johns that lived down here in the 65 year that it was resident, but sometimes John likes to emphasize who he is, so he gives his last name too, which was Johnson. So John Johnson. I got a third name a couple of weeks ago. The name was Jane. Now, ironically, all 3 of those people, I've been giving this tour for 2 years, and I always get Benjamin and John when I'm in here. So they both lived here in 1801. That's 2 out of 5 people. That's pretty good odds that it's the right Ben.
Right.
So again, there's not a whole lot of records on who this Benjamin was, but again, the fact that I keep getting the same 2 names like over and over and over again, it's not ironic, and it's not just on that spirit box. It's on all 3 that I have because I do have another one. But very interesting that we keep getting that. Ooh, green. That could also be another
last name.
Last name, correct. So I'll be diving into that list to see what's there. You
awesome.
will get the full list from me now that we have Benjamin on that list. So you will get the backlink to show all the archaeological dig stuff that they found here. The reason why this is called Lodge Alley, this is where the Freemasons had their Masonic lodge. So again, Freemasons, brick, clay, anything related to the Freemasons. I actually had the word Illuminati show up on me last week. I'm like,
wow.
really? Like, that was kind of like, all right, we'll go with conspiracy theories. I'm good. But it was interesting to actually see that come through. But again, this is an interesting place. They did do an archaeological dig and found some of their silverware and tools and pretty much classified these people as lower class. So if you think about it, it makes sense. That's the water this side. Those big giant buildings that we see across the street wouldn't have been there. The smell of low tide would have been coming through here. That's not a smell for the rich. So again, those people are down on the other end, and their houses are positioned specifically to not have that smell, just to get the breeze.
Right.
So again, it's very specific in the way this town is laid out. What we're going to do from here is we're going to walk through the rest of the alley. Hopefully something else will pop up. We are going to be in a neighborhood for a brief block or so, just to get to our next stop, where it's going to be very busy, like I talked about. So we'll kind of determine which spot we're going to take, and based on your list of what stories I need to tell. We will be able to sit down, fingers crossed, for at least a few minutes. And then we're going to dive into a kick-ass female pirate over at the Powder Magazine.
Awesome.
So, and then once we get going over there, depending on, again, we should be good on time. It's literally just the 3 of us. We should be able to hit that last cemetery that I want to kind of take a dive into. But I'll be honest, cemeteries, I normally don't get a whole lot of evidence. If you're dead and gone, you're not going to be hanging out where you're buried. That's why we go to places that you loved, like the mansion. So again, you guys are both, I checked your shoes at the beginning. I should have checked before we walked into the weird cobblestones. But yeah, tour guides aren't allowed to be in neighborhoods. So there's been a lot of complaints lately about being in neighborhoods, but we're allowed. This is literally the cutoff line of where we're allowed to be. So, is this what you guys were hoping for?
Oh, yeah.
So you really haven't said much.
I'm just taking everything in.
I know, I talk fast. That's why I record it. But you guys are from the north. You should be able to get it pretty quick.
Right.
Some of my southerner guests ask me to slow down. I'm like, nope, I'm recording it. We have a lot to cover. We have a lot to do. Like, let's go. You can slow down the recording if you need to. Yeah, I'm excited about that. That's a big deal. I showed up a couple of weeks ago. blocks away. You know, I'm back in my car and I'm heading back home instead of trying to fight for a person wherever I can along my route.
What?
Right. Same principle. Yep. We're not gonna go down. We're not supposed to. Like, some people down there. It's residential down there. So. Okay. I'll still give you the story though, because it is an interesting alley. So when you guys are walking it by yourself over the next couple days, I'll give you why you should go down there. It doesn't matter if you're going down day or night. Awesome. Which story to tell. I'll kind of go to my go-to, which is obviously Philadelphia Alley, and kind of give you the layout of the land before we go look into that female pirate over there. The other tour guides like to always poke their nose into what I'm doing too. Like I got a new camera that's full spectrum, and it looks like this crazy giant contraption that I guess all around. Just the other night, one of the other tour guides stopped the person using that camera and they said, those apps don't work. He said, yeah, I'm pretty sure this isn't an app. I'm like, this thing's the coolest deal. It's actually kind of fun to get the whole thing on record. It's so funny. Stop here, let you guys have a seat, which is going to take a few minutes here. And I was hoping for a breeze up in this way, but there's not. Nope, definitely no Carol around here. In other words, we're processing separation. Yeah, nothing. So we'll kind of keep an eye on it as I go through the Philadelphia Alley story. So if you look behind you, that wall back there is actually part of Philadelphia Alley. That used to be called Dueller's Alley. So that's where duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. That doorway in the middle is where the loser would come through. They would pick him up, bring him over this courtyard, and then take him over to St. Philip Cemetery, drop the body, and then they go celebrate the winner. Like, that's kind of the mentality of what went on over there. Yeah, pretty harsh stuff. Knife. Interesting. And that actually goes to across the street, and that'll make sense once I start telling that story. Cool. But, yeah, you guys can have a seat again. Okay. But there's more to that story. I just like to point out the geographic of what that doorway actually is. So, we all tell the story of one specific duel that occurred down there. There was a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. He moves down here because his name is Joseph Brown Ladd, by the way, so if his name shows up, now you know why. But he moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. The attorney handling that money told her to send the doctor away, and he was just after her cash. So to prove his point, he moves to Charleston. The coachman that set him up to be, in the new hotel of his new stay, set him up to be robbed and killed. So somebody walking by saw what was going on. His name was Ralph Isaacs. The interesting thing is that Ralph Isaacs has the same initials of where the doctor came from, Rhode Island. So our I is pertinent to us with the spirit box pit. So anyway, he tells him, I got a place for you to stay on Church Street. We're on Church Street, by the way. 59 Church Street. So if we get the number 59, that's obviously relevant. He's obviously renting a room from these two young ladies. They're friends of Ralph. The two become friends, the doctor and Ralph. Now, the doctor, he starts making a lot of money. So his practice is taking off. Amanda's moving down soon. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. Every haunted city has a whistler of some sort. Ours is a doctor. So they used to go see plays together, but because the doctor made so much more money, he gets better seats. So they don't sit next to each other. They talk about the plays on the way home. So they're talking about William III one night. The doctor loves the new actress that's in town. Ralph doesn't. They start arguing. gets a little bit more heated. He starts insulting his fiance back home, and the two go their separate ways. Ralph, being from here, goes to his friends at the newspaper, and he basically says, I want to put an ad in the paper telling the whole city what a disgrace the doctor is to the city of Charleston. And he does. So the doctor sees the ad, he rebuttals with, let's go to Doodler's Alley. We're going to settle this. So they come down, they take the 20 paces, they turn. The doctor points his gun in the air and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. So Ralph still has his one shot. He puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. The doctor didn't die and come through the death gate. His friends picked him up and carried him home to 59 Church Street, where he died 10 days later. Now, probably thinking he's a doctor, why couldn't he heal himself? This is the late 1700s. He was probably trying to bleed himself out, trying to get rid of the wound, and he died in the process. So, we did get the word process.
Yeah, twice.
Interesting. But they say as you walk down the alley, this is where you would use regular audios. If you're going to walk down there, turn your voice recorders on. They say you can hear the whistles from the doctor. I do have a couple that can't be debunked as somebody walking down Queen or Cumberland throwing a whistle down the alley, because all the locals know the story. They're always going to try to throw guys like me off. But I do have some very faint whistles in the background. When you're in that alley, it is the most quiet, most picturesque place we have. So if you're a picture taker, it's absolutely stunning. It is residential at the end. There's a few mansions down there, so just kind of be mindful. So, I mean, you can cut all the way through, and that is public, but after 6 p.m., no tours are supposed to be down there. So there's people that were down at the end. The only reason I know that's because I'm the guy that pissed off the new neighbor.
Right.
So I'm the one who got the phone call from the tourism office that said you can't get on there. So I said, okay. So that's why I rerouted up here. It's still a great story. I still get a lot of stuff as far as whatever happens. Plus, the Death Gate is such a great tale by itself.
Right.
So the story that they're telling over there, the big, large group in front of the cemetery, there's a sign right inside the gate that says there's no ghost here but the Holy Ghost. The reason for that, 1888, a young lady dies by the name of Sue Howard Hardy. Her initials are SH. Just to put that in perspective, I have seen and heard it in the past. She dies 6 days after her stillborn child. In 1987, we have a local photographer in town. He's taking pictures of all of our cemeteries, checking them all out. He's going to put a book together. He captures a full apparition of a woman wearing a shawl and a baby basket next to her over that particular grave. It's 1987. There's no photographs or no Photoshop. There's no cell phones, stuff like that. He sends it to Kodak to try to get it debunked. Kodak can't debunk the picture either. So again, very odd situation. The picture is cursed. Females that handle it, on phones and things like that, get a little queasy, nauseous, headache, same symptoms like I told you about at Big John's. So I don't show the picture on the tour. Pregnant females are going to obviously not have a good pregnancy based on the gist of the story. Now, those guys up there, they're dragging the story out for like 10 minutes. So in the event we actually have anything related to the story and I have to give you the link to verify it, keep in mind you're going to look at it on a computer or have a mail show it to you. Just don't, I mean, you guys have already kind of expressed that you're both empaths. I don't want that kind of mentality coming to both of you. So, in any event, you know, somebody's pregnant, I don't want to be the guy that you guys call back and say, there's an issue with my family.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I gave you the warning twice.
Okay.
So just kind of keep that in mind.
Gotcha.
What's the word we have now?
Intention.
Intention. Interesting. Still got nothing. Give you the rest of the layout of the land. Let's see here. So the building we passed over there on the corner, the brick building, that used to be a restaurant called Bocce's. Doors don't stay locked in there. Mirrors fall off the walls. When I get my store, that's one of the buildings we're looking at because we do want a haunted hotel above the store. So again, everybody will get a gear, you know, get an hour with me, learn how to use it. They'll get all the data back the next day. Like, it's going to be a huge thing other than just taking the tours. It will be a haunted hotel as well. And it will be a paranormal shop downstairs. So gear and books on the paranormal. Obviously, as a writer, those are my two focuses. So we'll keep the podcast going. We'll keep everything going in-house, and it's already we've already got people waiting. I just hired a co-host for the podcast. We have a hotel manager ready to jump ship, and I already have 2 techs that are already working on equipment for me that are going to expand my own investigation. So they're kind of getting the gambit right now of like, are you going to work for me in the future? So again, it's going to be a big enterprise down there.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I want to come back.
Oh, we will.
Yeah. Trust me, the name's not going to change because it's what draws everybody in.
Good. How are you?
But yeah, it's already in the works. So the podcast has been on air for 3.5 years now, and that's the name of it. That's how this all actually got started. It was my old investigations from like 10 years ago. My new wife found them, said turn it into a blog. It took off. We turned it into a podcast. It took off. I took a year off to finish my master's degree. We're about to start it back up with a new co-host, not my wife, somebody else coming in. She has a southern drawl, whereas my wife doesn't have a radio voice.
Right.
And this young lady actually works for a team for TAPS, which I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with.
Yep.
So there's subdivisions of TAPS all over the U.S.
Cool.
And she works for one of those teams. So she knows the equipment. She just doesn't know the stories that I do. So she's going to be doing the research. I talk about the investigation. So some of them she'll be on tour with me with. Other ones are going to be on things that she's done with the TAPS teams. So again, they help a lot at like houses and stuff. But every once in a while they'll get a museum or something thrown their way where they'll dive into it. And she's with like a team of 15 or 20 people.
Yeah.
So I mean, she sees all kinds of equipment. And again, everybody kind of has their own thing, but then there's a collective of all their devices that they use and different things that they've constructed. Like, it's interesting. So she knows her stuff pretty good.
That's cool.
Not to mention, she's got that southern drawl. She's going to slow me down. So that's been one of the complaints on the podcast is I talk too fast. So again, I understand it too. So it's like I'm going to remedy it.
Yep.
You guys see the burning gas lamp off in the distance?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the pirate house. So the pirate house is where Blackbeard's men would come off the ships from the wharfs, and they would actually have a place to stay, and they would meet with a few young ladies, have a good place, But they also dug a tunnel from the pirate house 1 block away to Dock Street Theater. It's one of the top 10 haunted locations in America. I don't have that kind of proof. I've been in there dozens of times, whether it's for entertainment or whether it's been for an investigation and me poking around. Of course, I have way newer devices now. That is really weird. That is not plugged in. What in the world happened?
I didn't touch it, I swear.
That's crazy. Is it still running?
Yeah.
Okay. So this battery pack on the back is meant to power just the camera because it's supposed to die after an hour.
Oh.
So the fact that it was behind the battery, like, there's no way I missed that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good about making sure everything's running before I hand it off. It's very interesting. Anyway, the pirate house, by the way, too, somebody lives there, so don't go in his backyard poking around looking for ghosts. He gets pissed.
Oh, I don't blame him.
Well, most people are like, how do you know that? I'm like, yeah, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I'm that guy poking around. So now that your mindset is on pirates, let's go across the street and look into the powder magazine and we'll kind of dive into this hand bonnet. Looking into that building over there. Let's see what we're at in time. We should be doing okay. Yeah, it's only 10:08. That's good. So we're almost at an hour and a half, so we got plenty of time. So you guys are cool pressing it to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So after this powder magazine, we're going to go 1 more block up and we're going to check out that circular church. I'll give you the history that I know, which isn't much. But I'm really going to be focused on obviously what the thermal's going to give us, because there is apparitions allegedly caught there of Revolutionary War heroes, and there's a relation back to the Pinckneys. So it's almost like I want to design the tour so we start with Pinckneys and end with Pinckneys, and it is the same family, and there's a relation. But let's get into the powder magazine, because we are going to spend a good 10-15 minutes here depending on what's going on. So the powder magazine is the building with the crosses on it. Those aren't crosses, first off. Those are earthquake bolts. The gist behind those is that if we get another earthquake and the buildings get quaked, those are turnbuckles, meaning you can turn them and it'll straighten the building back up. It's a great concept, but it doesn't work.
Right.
So, they're all over town. You can actually even see them on this apartment building behind the powder magazine. They're just the peach-looking squares. And when you guys are around town, you see lion heads and pineapples and all kind of stuff on the floors of the, that's what those are. They're earthquake bolts. They just don't work. It's for all decor now. It's all part of the Charleston charm. So the powder magazine, if you remember, I told you about the Charlestown wall when you crossed that crosswalk. This is the street where the wall came up. So we are still just inside the original Charlestown walls. This was the gunpowder magazine. So it held gunpowder for all the different wars. So 7 different wars, including the Civil War. The wall went up just past this building and then started going south towards the battery. So I don't know how much you guys have explored down here, but you're heading down towards the tip of the peninsula, going this way. It's in the corner of the walls on purpose. The water's this way. So if cannon attacks from enemy ships or of any sort, it's going to have a hard time getting through those really thick walls. They're 32 inches thick. So, yeah, pretty thick stuff. So almost a full 3 feet. If it does get all the way through, there's sand in the roof underneath those red shingles that is supposed to explode up in the air with the gunpowder and then fall to put out the fire on the gunpowder. Another great concept that doesn't work. So again, the sand is still there because this building has never been attacked in such a fashion. So the only reason why we know it doesn't work is we had another gunpowder magazine closer to the battery. It did get attacked. The sand went up, fell, couldn't put out the fire, burned to the ground, it's gone. So again, this one's still here. This is the oldest government building on the East Coast. So again, it is protected a lot. Right now it's a museum. You can go visit it. If you're into war and artillery and that kind of thing, that's what's inside. Pretty cool stuff if you're into that. The reason why I tell you all of the history on this crazy building is because our story actually starts in the middle of its construction. So it took a whole decade, so 10 years, to construct this thing. 1708 is when our story starts. Follow me, there's a lot of twists. Young lady moves here from Ireland. Her name is Anne Cormack. She comes here with her dad and his mistress, who happens to be her mom. With me so far? The three of them are getting away from his wife. So, how mad was that woman that they moved here from Ireland in 1708 by ship to get the hell away from a pissed off lady? She was pretty mad.
Yeah.
So, once they get here, he buys a plantation in the Georgetown area, about an hour to an hour and a half north of here. And of course, it was more than likely rice based on its location because there's a waterfront right there. But he sends his daughter down here to do all of the selling and moving of wares and that kind of thing. Mom dies pretty quickly after they get here, so it's just him and the daughter. Keep in mind, rumor had it, Anne, when she was small, like a child, she actually killed one of their servants back in Ireland with a knife to the belly. So I told you, we had the word knife across the street. Still relatable. So again, we're going to take it. But again, I'm also wanting to give you the mentality of this young lady throughout the whole story. So we're going to fast forward. This building's finished in 1713. Fast forward again, 1715. Now pirates are coming through town. Very exciting time for a young lady that likes to stab servants. So she's like, hell yeah, I'm all in. So she falls in love pretty quickly. This guy's name is James Bonney. So Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. So they move to Jamaica. They get married. Anne Cormack becomes Anne Bonny, your most famous female pirate of the golden age of piracy. So this is a pretty big deal, especially for the history here. So when she gets there, she realizes that James, he's a coward. He's a privateer, which makes him a spy for the British, the enemy. This is not what she wanted. She wanted Captain Jack Sparrow, right? So this is not him. She falls in love again. This guy's name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. Much cooler name. It's got Jack in the name. He's got his own ship. He's called Calico Jack because he wears the jackets of the men he kills. So again, this is the guy she really wanted to do. Jack tries to buy the dowry from James Bonney. Bonnie refuses. So she's married to James Bonney this entire story, just so you know. And we're going to go through the list of men as we kind of go through this. So Calico Jack has his own ship, and Anne wants to be part of it. Females curse pirate ships. You cannot have a girl on a pirate ship. It just doesn't work out. He makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy, you can be part of my crew. She's okay with this cross-dressing bit because Dad back in Ireland used to dress her like a boy to keep her away from his wife. So again, so he could spend time with his daughter, even though she looked like a boy. She just wants to be a pirate. She's like, whatever, let's do this. Dressed like a guy, she's part of the crew. She's allowed to be a female in his quarters. Of course, he's the captain. That's how it goes. So, being a female in the quarters, she eventually gets pregnant. You cannot have a pregnant dude on the crew. He sends her away to Cuba because he's got to hide the fact that he had a female among the crew. He says, have the baby come back, we'll figure it out. She has the baby, but returns without the baby. We don't know what happened. So as far as if the baby lived, if the baby stayed, we have no idea. I know, right? I told you, there's a lot of twists. She's shady.
Oh.
She's also dressed like a girl. She doesn't care anymore about hiding her gender. So she gets back to the ship. This makes Jack mad that she's dressed like a female. So she's going to make him even more mad. So instead of being apologetic, she's going to piss him off even more. So she is going to go flirt with the pirate crew that he just captured. They're down below deck on guy number 3, in case you lost track. The guy she's flirting with reveals his gender to be a female, pretending to be a guy, to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females doing the exact same thing on the same ship. So this young lady's name was Mary Reed. She convinces Mary to become part of the crew. The 2 are happy-go-lucky on the ship. The British find out where they are, and they send the entire fleet to come capture these pirates. The other men are down below deck, too drunk to come up. Like, to fight. So it's literally Anne and Mary up above deck, fighting back, all on their own. Obviously the ship's going to get captured, including Calico Jack. So her last words to Jack were, you should have fought like a man instead of going down like a dog. So the word dog shows up here quite a bit. So the judge, his name is Nicholas Laws. So when you see or hear my name, it's not me, it's the judge. He wants to see the two men that fought back by themselves. He tries and hangs all the other men, including Calico Jack, so they're dead and gone. The two ladies go in front of the judge, they reveal their gender, that they're female. He doesn't care, they're still pirates, he's still going to hang them. We plead our bellies, was the last thing they said, meaning they're both claiming to be pregnant. You cannot hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. He says, fine, whatever. He sends them both back to jail and delays the hanging dates until after their pregnancies are over. Dad is still here in Charleston. He bails out Anne and brings her back here, and she remarries. Guy number 4 has 4 kids and dies at the age of 84. That's all we know. As far as Mary Reed goes, she's a pirate in a Jamaican jail. She died from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail in 1721, a year later. We don't know if either pregnancy was true or false. We don't know what happened to that first child in Jamaica or in Cuba. So again, there's lots of holes in this story. So again, we're going to get close to the powder magazine itself. We're going to just kind of stay out of the other group's way. They like to kind of go through the door where we came in, but they go out over there and then vice versa. So we're going to kind of stay tucked up there in that corner. As far as like those people up there in that van, so you're going to just be kind of checking things out a little bit. The thermal imaging camera does give me a little bit of trouble in here from time to time. So sometimes it'll shut off, sometimes it'll put a white film over somebody, and then their device stops working. I've seen it happen at least 2 or 3 different times. Do you still have that red square on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So over here, we are going to turn it up just loud enough so we're not disturbing them. But we're going to go have a seat alongside of the wall and see if we can capture anything before we go check out the circular grade. Now, this is normally a dead zone for this guy, so if I do find anything, I'll tell you. Just read 4.4, but it was in my pocket the whole time. Yeah, there's like a little red right here. Seat now, right? Chill out for a few minutes. Drink. So it's sitting pretty steady. I don't know if you can see those numbers or not. 2.5 to 2.7. It's probably coming from the building behind me. Somebody probably left something on. So, how's that wordless coming?
Got cut. We got a bunch of things. Lady, Monday. Above, cut.
Good one.
Nervous, motivate, single.
There was speculation that Anne Bonny and Mary Reed actually had an intimate relationship.
That's what I was, yep. Here.
So that's interesting that popped up that way. Reed? Really?
Oh.
Like, that's pretty nutty.
That explains a lot. I got disease across the street. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You guys are smokers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a smoker. Now, this is the lot where somebody stopped my guest with the camera, and they were like, "Yeah, those apps are fake." Okay.
Rolled.
Oh, so the 2 questions that I normally give here are things that I didn't give you the answers to, like the Pinky Mansion site, were what's the name of Calico Jack's ship, and what were Anne Bonny's parents' names. So there's 2 things I did not give you purposely, so you had something to ask.
Okay.
In case that way, when my people spread out, they can. What does that say on there?
Deliberately.
just so you know too, because everybody asks about the devices and the different apps that I use. That's interesting. Attractive. We're getting a lot of like almost sexual terms at this point.
Right. I noticed that.
Very interesting. The list of apps that I use are at the top of the data page.
Awesome.
And there's also a link to, like, I have like a little shop where you can like check out all the different devices, so that way you can go to Amazon and see exactly what I'm using. Or there's another company I use called GoStop, and they create devices like this guy. So all of those links are in there. That's a Ghostbusters term. There is no Dana, only Zool. Have you guys ever seen the original Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
I have. Yeah, it's been a long time.
So when Sigourney Weaver gets taken over,
Right.
there is no Dana, only Zool. Like, it's, again, meant to be the part of the bullshit. I heard something freak. The nice thing is I listen to the recording with earphones on, so that way it's
You can hear.
yeah, not disturbing anybody.
Great.
Greatest what, Ann?
Greatest.
That's what I'm waiting for. Come on, Ann, tell us what you're the greatest at. Is that me? No way that thing went all the way to 28 for my vape when it's not even on.
And did you and Mary have a relationship?
It's definitely not my vape. It went up to 11, and then it went up to 28 after that.
And what was Calico Jack's ship's name?
Come on, Ann, you're not giving us much here. Or is it Mary that's here? Woman. Okay, so it's either Ann or Mary. Which one? Of a Lonely Heart.
And did you consider yourself to be the greatest pirate?
Wow.
Who's Who's pretty?
Who's pretty, Ann?
And who's attractive?
A lot of sexual terms are coming out of it.
Oh, yeah.
So we had AIDS. We had attractive, pretty, girlfriend. All right, what? Now this is just being normal to 2.5 to 2.7. Again, it went all the way to 28 there for a second.
I could talk to your local Geico.
Ann, who's pretty?
Mary Reed, who was older, you or Ann? You know the answer. I want to see if there's anything related to that person. Or pneumonia. Mary, who was older, you or Ann? Record that 28 before I forget the damn number. Heartbreak.
$199,800.
Let it go to one more term, and then we'll move on and see what comes up.
Is anyone with us? Is it you, Mary, or is it Ann?
I will tell you, when I'm usually like this involved, it's hard to leave a location. When I have 10 people, it's like, all right, guys, we're not seeing much. Let's wrap it up.
Ann, who was more powerful? You or Mary?
Oh, that's a good one. Feather. on, guys. Give us something else here. What do you want us to know?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Craft.
Watercraft, maybe? It's kind of a stretch.
That's what I was wondering.
So the name of the ship was the Kingston. So I expect the word king. I've only had it happen once. I've been given this part of the tour for like 9 months now. I had to switch it up after I got booted out of there. Anne Bonny's parents' names were William and Mary. It was Mary Brennan was her mom, and William Cormack was her father. They lost the MC. It used to be Nick Cormack.
Right.
When they came over from Ireland. Peak year in 99. I'm trying to remember what year Anne Bonny was born. I want to say it was 98. That would have been 1698. So when we get up to that church, Samantha, you're going to be kind of the focus. Like, I'm going to have you kind of rest your arms on the wall if we can get close to it. Just kind of do some small pans back and forth. So we'll spend like 5 or 10 minutes there while I give you guys the history of what I know. The spirit box will kind of keep audible to you only. It's a very popular area like this, but there's probably going to be way more tours closer to that wall.
Okay.
And there might be some tours allowed that are allowed in the cemetery. I don't have that permission, so we're going to be on the outskirts. But we're going to be looking for those Revolutionary War heroes, chemistry. Again, another attractive term.
Yeah, exactly.
I got nothing for trail.
The help from the water was
Anne and Mary, we're going to get moving. Can you say goodbye or good night? Anything that says goodbye or good night. Again, just seeing the theme of the words coming through based on the story. I mean, you can't ignore it.
No.
And it was a repeated thing.
Yeah.
What's clean?
Give grief that we're leaving. You'll have nobody to talk to.
Do you have grief because of the way that you lived your life?
pretty satisfied with all of the
Oh, yeah.
girlfriend.
That was
factors.
awesome. Yeah.
Again, it wasn't super definitive as far as giving us the exact names and dates and things like that, but there was a definite theme there.
Right.
So
Very
we
much.
might be passing by another group.
Okay.
Actually, we'll just cross the street and go up that side, so we're not bothering them. Some of these tour guides have been on for like 20 or 30 years, so whenever somebody's doing something different, obviously up there right now, so I'll kind of give you the quick history as we're walking. Henry Lawrence Pinckney is buried in there. That is the son of the nephew of Eliza, so it would be her great nephew. He actually he ran for governor, I want to say against his dad at one point, if I'm not mistaken. The Charles is in the wrong way. But in the meantime, like, he did all kinds of, political things. But one of the main things that comes up for me is that he started a newspaper called the Mercury. So I'm looking for anything that relates to newspapers, anything that relates to the word Mercury, that kind of thing. But obviously with, your particular device, I'm looking for those Revolutionary War heroes. So they say you can see their shadows, which for us would be technically any kind of colder spot. So if somebody's walking around in there, we'll hopefully be able to find them pretty quickly. Damn, another group's going to be coming by. So I do want to get like a good 3 to 5 minutes worth of footage up there. Granted, they're not going to go right up to the damn cemetery gate. They have access before, and most of them actually have access to go inside. But this is something new as far as, again, I don't go to a whole lot of graveyards, even in my own investigations, just because I'm not getting much evidence.
Right.
Now, you guys are going to be in town. Next couple things, you want something free to do, look up Magnolia Cemetery if you haven't already been there. It's the biggest cemetery we have in South Carolina. It's on your way out of downtown area. It'll be on the right-hand side.
Okay.
You can drive through it. Take a look at some of those headstones. Yes, the place is haunted. Super haunted. I actually get quite a bit of activity when I'm in there with different devices. Let's move out of the vehicles. Just gonna take advantage of these guys coming in and out of here. Like 3 to 5 minutes. We'll get some good footage, see what words come up on the word list, and let your S-Box record. We'll kind of see what happens. So this is called the Circular Church. I'm sure that the other tours give all the history of the building. I don't have the full history of the building to kind of give you, I haven't dove into that yet. I'm really just trying to tie it into the Pinckneys for right now. So will I be able to get in there to give the tour? I don't know, especially with my noisy boxes and all that kind of stuff. But Samantha, I kind of want to get you closer to the wrought iron gate and kind of get as much of the cemetery as you possibly can. Just kind of pan back and forth nice and slow. Keep in mind there are people in the picture to the right. There's a tour being going on over there. So you don't want to mistake anything over there. Of course, they'll be warm and not cold. shouldn't be. Just gotta speak up.
Alright.
Watching that blue dot to see if it moves anywhere crazy. Definitely some heat coming off of those
Right.
sarcophaguses, huh?
Absolutely.
Cement is going to hold on to the heat from the daytime.
Right.
It's interesting how it's bouncing all over
Yeah.
too.
It's everywhere.
Now, I do have one of those like SLS apps on my phone that I've been testing too, so
It's still just like jump. I don't even have to move, and it's
is it just moving all over?
yeah.
There's so many crazy ghost apps on here, things that So this one, what it's supposed to do is kind of put that stick figure up.
Right.
I'm sure you've seen this before.
Yeah.
See, there's people up in the distance. I should have
Right.
picked them up. So again, I don't put a whole lot of faith in the apps. So I like to test them out for like literally weeks, different locations, see what they, because a lot of people recommended this one. I'm like, kind of see what happens with it. Saying there's something right next to the sign. A little sandwich sign right there.
Yeah.
Came up just to the right of it. Luckily, your camera is pointed in the general direction. Popped up twice, like real quick, split second, like.
Right.
So, and I don't put a lot of faith into these apps. See how it picks her up.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna move with her,
Right.
so just that's basically what we're hoping to find when you're scanning something like this. Anything coming up on your end?
What does list mean?
Maybe he wants me to check the list and see where we're at.
Any predictions for the game today?
Anybody see the game tonight?
What are we looking for on the list?
You keep getting that buzzing sound, like that. Like you keep. I've heard that several times tonight. That's weird for that to come through. I think they're gonna be coming out this way. It's gonna move down a little bit.
What name on the list?
Hello?
Can you give me a name?
We'll actually stop over here. Select the devices. Kind of awesome. Kind of get into like what happens from here. But I'm usually done with going through the data by noon. So
Awesome.
again, I tried to maximize the amount of devices that were going to record for us. We did try out a new app that I'm testing. It's not a new app, but an app that I'm not real familiar with. It's called